Welcome to the Pro Wrestling Report, primetime television here on My 24 Milwaukee. Dameon Nelson and David Hero, and what an amazing tag team showcase on Ring of Honor just a few minutes ago right here on My 24 Milwaukee. The big main event, the American Wolves versus the House of Truth, a 20-minute tag team wrestling classic, which saw the two men that are going to face each other at Final Battle team up to take on Elgin and Strong.
That was a fantastic tag team match. I mean, tag team wrestling is alive and well and thriving in Ring of Honor, and who would have thought it'd be so good with a couple singles guys?
Absolutely, and let's not forget that Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards have long been a tag team as part of the American Wolves, and those two are the two that will battle each other at Final Battle. But tonight, Ring of Honor focused on tag teams, including the Bravados versus the Young Bucks in the opening matchup. Another tremendous tag team.
Do you think they shook each other's hands before that match?
Well, the Young Bucks do not subscribe to the Code of Honor, so no, they did not.
That's what got them kicked out of a SmackDown locker room.
But it is so smart, I think, for Ring of Honor to be focusing on this tag team wrestling because neither company, WWE or TNA, is doing it as effectively as they did it tonight.
Well, TNA did until they split up beer money.
Yeah.
And you know what? With Evan Bourne and Kofi not together, the whole tag team division in both companies is a bit of a mess. But Ring of Honor, they still have theirs going on.
A detailed explanation of the Kevin Steen situation, and one that really showed how big of a monster heel they are making Kevin Steen out to be. And what struck me was that one point in that clip when they showed him go after Kerry Silken, which happened several months back, and the sheer shock by everybody, including the referees, the officials, and the fact that he never really did anything to him, takes you back to days in pro wrestling where things were thought out and everything that happened had a reason and made sense. When Kevin Steen gets back in the ring in Ring of Honor, that's going to be the end of a very solid build over the last few weeks on Ring of Honor television.
And they're going to have one huge monster heel on their hands.
Absolutely, and Steve Corino seems to be the man who wants Kevin Steen back in Ring of Honor so they can finish their business. But David Hero, Ring of Honor tonight, while it was a tag team showcase, so much more going on in the world of professional wrestling, including a verdict laid down against Kurt Angle. Chris Jericho speaks about whether or not he is going to return to WWE, and we have an opponent for Bobby Roode at this Sunday's TNA Turning Point pay-per-view, and what happened on Raw this past Monday night and why. All that including the history book where we look back at the Survivor Series 2001 and this guy's Star of the Week, coming up next right here on the Pro Wrestling Report, Prime Time.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report, Primetime TV, the longest-running pro wrestling news program in the world, with your hosts, David Hero and Dameon Nelson.
Hello fans, Dameon Nelson and David Hero coming to you here on My 24 Milwaukee with the Pro Wrestling Report, primetime television. Thank you so much for sticking around and joining us here on a Saturday night. And our top story this week, David Hero, is Chris Jericho has spoken out about the rumors of his return to World Wrestling Entertainment. It's been talked about for a very long time since Chris Jericho left WWE, and this time he has made it very clear as to his goals, at least in the short term. He spoke to the suplex.com, a website obviously, and said the following, and I quote, "Well, there's been rumors that I'm coming back pretty much every week since I left. I still have no plans. I know people get mad at me when I say that. I've just been enjoying what I'm doing right now, and if other people don't understand that, I'm sorry." And for those of you that don't know, Jericho, the lead singer of his band Fozzy, they've been doing a lot of touring, most recently over in the UK.
Him and Kermit?
No, not Fonzie. Fozzy.
No, Fonzie's from Happy Days.
He has not been touring with the Muppets.
Oh.
You're still on that? I can't wait to hear who your Star of the Week is going to be, by the way, after you picked Beaker.
Neither can
from
everybody
the Muppets
else.
Last week. But be that as it may, Chris Jericho making that statement saying he's just enjoying what he's doing right now and has no plans to return to WWE. He went on to say more, though, including, and I quote, "That's the thing. If I never wrestle again, I'll have no regrets. I could be done. I know some people don't like that or understand it. I don't want the big WrestleMania send-off with the cheering and the thing. No way. I just want to disappear and never be seen again, which is essentially what he did when he departed
he's going to
WWE.
be coming back to WrestleMania. Who doesn't want the WrestleMania send-off?
Who doesn't want the WrestleMania payoff?
Well, that too. But you know, Chris Jericho might be one of the absolute smartest guys in all of wrestling. He comes back, does his thing, gets over with the crowd. They love him, they cheer him, they boo him, they hiss him, and then he leaves. He's gone for a year and a half, 2 years, dances with the stars, goes on tour with the Muppets and his band, comes back.
Arguably,
he's always healthy.
Arguably, when Chris Jericho had his last run in WWE, it was his best run. He was the best in the world at what he did. Now, David Hero, there's somebody else running around talking about how they are the best in the world. And it got me thinking, a matchup between CM Punk and Chris Jericho, and getting to that matchup would be WrestleMania worthy and would definitely fit the bill of the grandest stage of them all.
It would be, but you got the best in the world at what he does against the best in the world. Well, CM Punk has a better title, doesn't he? Because he's just the best in the world, not just what he does. But I think it'd be a great match. I think the two would put on one hell of a show. It could be Steamboat Savage-ish, you know?
Because they're also great wrestlers.
It could definitely steal the show, but you got to wonder, Chris Jericho, a guy that has beaten The Rock and Steve Austin on the same night, against CM Punk, who is...
That's what CM Punk has to prove. That's why CM Punk has to go against Chris Jericho, to prove that he is better than Jericho, who, as Jericho has said, has nothing left to prove in this business.
Nothing.
But a one-off shot at WrestleMania against CM Punk, who we've been discussing may or may not have the right opponent going into WrestleMania. Chris Jericho could be that right opponent.
The only thing Jericho has left to prove is that karaoke show he bailed on, or he lost the first round, and didn't do very well in Dancing with the Stars. He could do better on that, but as far as his in-ring talent goes, he is actually, top-notch.
He does have some acting roles coming up next year. He's going to be filming going after January, after his current tour with Fozzy is done. The timing's right for a WrestleMania return for Chris Jericho. And we actually asked you on our Facebook page, who would you most like to see return to WWE? 3 names listed: Lita, who had been visiting WWE backstage at a recent show; Dave Bautista, who's been rumored to come back as well; and Chris Jericho, who we've been talking about. Overwhelmingly so, Chris Jericho was the winner with over 60% of the voting on our Facebook page for a desired return to WWE. David Hero, if you were a betting man, and I know you are, if you had to select right now, will Chris Jericho have another run in WWE within the next 6 months, yes or no?
Absolutely. WrestleMania. CM Punk.
They need him, don't they?
They don't need him.
They need him.
But he's definitely some great window dressing.
They need him. Chris Jericho may be back in WWE, but at this point, he's saying that that's not in the cards. A lot more to come here on the Pro Wrestling Report, prime time on My 24 Milwaukee. Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report, prime time. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero, and it's time to go to this week's headlines, brought to you by PWRshow.com. PWRshow.com, which in the next few weeks is going to be debuting with an all-new look, easier to navigate, more content, and more fun for you to be had there at the one-stop source for professional wrestling on the web.
It's everything you need, as well as EPO.
Kurt Angle gets a verdict. Kurt Angle, who had been arrested and charged with driving erratically in Virginia several months back, a verdict has been handed down, and it was a $1,500 fine by a Virginia judge for reckless driving. And that arrest had happened in September as a result of the suspicion of drunk driving. Kurt Angle had indicated that he was not drunk at all. As a matter of fact, David Hero, Kurt Angle's lawyer, said that he was texting while driving, which explains the erratic behavior.
That's just as bad as drinking and driving right now.
Angle's attorney did enter a plea of no contest on behalf of Angle, who reportedly was not at the hearing on Tuesday, but jail time not issued to Kurt Angle as a result of this incident. Now, this is not Kurt Angle's first dance in a court of law as it pertains to driving charges, but it's good to hear that Kurt Angle has no worries as it pertains to this particular incident dating back to September in Virginia. Is this behind him now, David Hero?
Well, of course. It's always behind him when you pay the fine. Just, we'll see what happens next.
The top fine could have been $2,500. $1,000 of that was suspended. So really, it's a $1,500 issue for Kurt Angle. He came out good out of this.
I hope the text was worth it.
Chyna sends a letter to WWE, specifically Vince McMahon. She wants her job back. She wants to be back in World Wrestling Entertainment.
Oh, like that's going to happen. Are you kidding me?
Chyna appeared on the Howard Stern radio program earlier this week and spoke of a certified letter that she sent to Vince McMahon asking for her job back. She shared with us some of the things that were in that letter, including the following statement. Hey, are you ready to put everything aside personally, and would you like to do business with me? She did receive a response from World Wrestling Entertainment that said simply, we're not interested at this time.
At this time or ever? Why would they want to bring that train wreck back?
Well, Chyna said she wasn't a train wreck again.
Listen, she was the woman before the wife, okay? Come on.
Triple H's ex-girlfriend, longtime girlfriend.
Well, let's not
Chyna.
forget that Triple H and Stephanie were together while Triple H was still with Chyna. I don't believe that Chyna is completely over this whole debacle.
Chyna has value. I think Chyna as a name, as a star, has value.
I don't think she does. She didn't move the needle at all in TNA when she was there with Kurt Angle.
That was about a minute.
But still, Chyna, listen, they do not need Chyna. At one time, she was amazing. Now
Don't treat her like a woman.
No, now she's the porn star. Like, they want that in their company right now.
Chyna did star in an adult film and will be starring in a sequel to that adult film. And you've seen and heard about her exploits, I'm sure, with the likes of X-Pac and much more. X-Pac actually going to be speaking out soon on Chyna's recent interview that she did, where she did not speak very favorable of him. More information on that in the weeks to come right here on the Pro Wrestling Report. Next headline, David Hero, Rey Mysterio gives a health update. Rey Mysterio, if you may or may not know, has been out with a torn ACL since August of this year. Mysterio posted the following on Twitter earlier this week: about to start therapy, working really hard, and my main goal is to be back in the ring by WrestleMania 28 in Miami. Now, David Hero, as it pertains to the television viewers, it was Alberto Del Rio that caused that injury and sent Rey Mysterio away with injury. Unfinished business between those two. The stage is Miami, Florida for WrestleMania 28. You got to think a match between Alberto Del Rio and Rey Mysterio would put some tails in the seats in Sun Life Stadium.
Or is it Ray against one of the Sin Caras?
Could be. I don't think that's WrestleMania worthy. Maybe we can get there.
Oh, that's a huge WrestleMania match. Mask versus mask. All the luchadors flying around the ring.
Possibly. Well, that is this week's headlines, and we, of course, wish a speedy recovery to Rey Mysterio. You can read many more headlines in the verified news section at pwrshow.com, and always stay caught up on the latest goings-on in professional wrestling at our website, pwrshow.com. Also, David Hero coming up on Sunday, November 20th for the Survivor Series, a big party for all of you in the Milwaukee area. The best location to watch the Survivor Series is not in your living room, not at your home, but on the largest television screen in the Midwest at the Horny Goat Hideaway on Sunday, November 20th. Free admission.
Free?
Free admission for a viewing party with the WWE Survivor Series. The Rock returns to the ring, Team Orton versus Team Barrett, and so much more. But the big main event at the Horny Goat Hideaway on Sunday, November 20th is the hostess with the mostest. Not even Linda Kay this time. It's Maria Kanellis, former WWE diva and Playboy centerfold. Maria Kanellis will be hosting that event at the Horny Goat Hideaway on Sunday, November 20th, and it is free of charge. So, instead of dropping $45, $55 on the Survivor Series pay-per-view at home and hoping you're satisfied, come on down and join the Pro Wrestling Report team and Maria Kanellis at the Horny Goat Hideaway right outside downtown Milwaukee for a free Survivor Series viewing party. All the details right now on the Pro Wrestling Report Facebook page, where you can RSVP for that big once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
This week's PWR Star of the Week comes from the SmackDown brand. And yes, I know what you're thinking. It's the Miss Ooh La La herself, Alicia Fox, as the Star of the Week. Well, she was very, very close to taking that title. But this week I got to go with the one and only, the former leader of Nexus, one of my super friends, Wade Barrett. Not only did Wade Barrett now captain his own team at the Survivor Series going against Team Randy Orton, but he was able to take care of business with a thumb to the eye and pinned Randy Orton for the 1-2-3, making him this week's Star of the Week.
So much still to come here on the Pro Wrestling Report on My 24 Milwaukee, including WWE news and TNA news, including information on this Sunday's Turning Point pay-per-view. And we go into the history book, looking at Survivor Series 2001. The Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Television continues right here on My 24 Milwaukee. ICW Wrestling presents Legends Night, Saturday, November 19th, 7 o'clock p.m. at Texas Victory Hall. Scheduled to appear are former WWE, TNA, and ECW stars Rhino, Zach Gowen, Kevin Thorne, Sheik Abdul-Bashir, Eugene Dinsmore, and more. And the ICW Championship will be on the line in addition to an Insanity Rules match and an ICW Battle Royal. ICW Legends Night, Saturday, November 19th at Texas Victory Hall.
What's up, all you stars and studs? I'm Maria Canales, and you're watching the Pro Wrestling Report on My 24.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Television here on My 24 Milwaukee. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero, and it's time to talk about World Wrestling Entertainment. And we're going to start with Kevin Nash returning to television and Monday Night Raw this past Monday night. And he had some very pointed things to say to Triple H in his efforts to explain his double sledgehammer attack on the Cerebral Assassin.
Kevin Nash, big, sexy, making it known he is back, he's in shape, he's ready to roll, and doesn't matter if you're his best friend or the godfather of his son. He's here to make some money and take people out.
Kevin Nash looked great on Monday night. Kevin Nash looked believable on Monday night. We find out that it's still about a month's time before we're going to see Triple H back. Kevin Nash is now contracted with WWE. That match is inevitable. You feel as if it may happen at TLC. I think we might see it happening at the Royal Rumble.
Well, I think that they can have their first match, maybe a sledgehammer on a pole match at the TLC, because that's going to be a bunch of different gimmick matches anyhow on that pay-per-view. But the Royal Rumble is the big payoff. I would imagine that Kevin Nash would be in the Royal Rumble. Why not?
Absolutely, and it was the Royal Rumble this year where he made his return to WWE. He referenced that point on Monday night, and this past Monday night, the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN Radio was broadcasting live from Karma Bar and Grill, located at 600 East Ogden on Ogden and Jackson in downtown Milwaukee. And let's go now to Karma, where Linda Kay spoke to some fans who reacted to Kevin Nash.
This is Linda Kay at Karma Bar and Grill, and I'm here with Kenny from Milwaukee.
Absolutely. This is definitely a match that any true wrestling fan absolutely dreams of. So Kevin Nash is definitely going to have his work cut out for him when Triple H comes back, and I know we'll see what happens. We got two bulls really going at it.
One of our great fans who showed up at Karma Bar and Grill. We'll hear from some more fans in just a few minutes, and we return to Karma for our live Monday Night Radio broadcast in 2 weeks' time, the night after the Survivor Series as well. WWE Raw continued with John Morrison getting a pinfall victory, David
It's
Hero.
about time. Didn't we mention this a few weeks ago? They weren't going to give John Morrison a bunch of TV time to bury him on his way out. They're rebuilding him, repackaging him, giving him some new fire, some new steam. Obviously, the fans are behind him, and John Morrison is on his way back to the upper mid-card.
And the losing makes you notice him.
Absolutely, because you get frustrated. The fans like John Morrison. The women love John Morrison. And when they see one of their favorites getting buried every week, it makes you wonder, what's going on over there?
Last week, it was Wade Barrett. Last night on SmackDown, it was Wade Barrett. So that's at least two people that are getting a renewed bit of focus from WWE. And it's no secret that come this time of year, WWE is solidly focused on the biggest show of the year, WrestleMania. Does that mean something?
It means a lot. It means that they're starting to get the people ready to be prepared as to who will be in some of the bigger matches. Wade Barrett definitely is a star in the WWE, if not all of wrestling. I mean, he's got a great look. He can talk. He's a good worker. Give Wade Barrett the ball. Let him run with it. Let him show the world why he was the leader of Nexus.
Zack Ryder gets a main event spot with John Cena in a tag team matchup against The Miz and R-Truth. David Hero, you last week on our online exclusive talked more about your feelings or the perception of your feelings for Zack Ryder. He gets the spot and gets the pin in the matchup this past Monday night.
No, he did not. He didn't get the pin. He was the guy that, he was nowhere.
It was wishful thinking.
It was wishful thinking.
Woo, I
you know
didn't
what?
know it.
Good for Zack Ryder. John Cena is doing his absolute best to try to make sure this guy stays a star, gets the fans behind him, besides just the internet wrestling fans. And you know what? It's going to be interesting to see if John Cena keeps, parading Zack Ryder around like his little mini-me at times. Are the fans going to accept him or boo him? It's going to be interesting.
CM Punk confronts Alberto Del Rio. Alberto Del Rio says to CM Punk that he is the best in the world, and then later on attacks CM Punk backstage. Those two going into a matchup at the Survivor Series for that WWE Championship. We got more comments from some fans, some live reactions at Karma Bar and Grill this past Monday night. Let's go now to more of those comments with Linda Kay.
I'm here with Matt from Milwaukee, and just now on Raw, we saw CM Punk confronting Alberto Del Rio about their match at Survivor Series. What did you think about everything that happened tonight?
I think the setup is great. I think CM Punk forcing Alberto to agree to the match was tremendous, and I think CM Punk will walk away the new WWE champion.
Linda Kay with some of our great fans down at Karma. A great time had by all, and we'll be back to Karma on November 21st for a live broadcast on 540 ESPN. Much more to talk about as it pertains to WWE, including what's going on with that Michael Cole challenge to good old JR Jim Ross, and also the success that WrestleMania already has been. We'll talk about those stories and more, including whether or not John Cena is the real problem with professional wrestling in 5 more minutes, our extended online version of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime, which you can find exclusively on our website, pwrshow.com. This is the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime on My 24 Milwaukee. David Hero, it's time to go back into the history book, back to the future, if you will. And this time it's Survivor Series season. So let's go back to Survivor Series, I believe it was 2001, when it was showcased by the Alliance, Shane and Stephanie McMahon's WCW and ECW versus WWE Team WWE. It wasn't just that night where Team WWE prevailed when Stone Cold Steve Austin ultimately did the right thing. You had that dissension between Jericho and The Rock as well, Jericho almost causing the team to lose, Undertaker getting involved. And Vince McMahon ending that pay-per-view standing tall, throwing his jacket down, arms up in the air. It was a great moment with Howard Finkel doing the ring announcing. It was a great moment for WWE, but it continued even into that next night on Raw, where we saw the return of Jerry Lawler to commentary after he had taken a few months off after the cat got fired. We saw Paul Heyman excommunicated from WWE. We saw Stephanie McMahon explain her actions and say to her father, Shane tricked me. I'm young. I'm naive. And Vince McMahon responding saying, security, get this woman out of my ring.
Raw, I thought, was more eventful than the actual pay-per-view itself. Mm-hmm. And that was simply because to be the man, you gotta beat the man. Ric Flair showed up on Raw that night.
It's unfortunate, and we talk about how great that was, including the Invasion pay-per-view, which occurred in the summer of that same year, because this is really recognized as one of the most botched things in the history of professional wrestling, WWE's purchase and utilization of the WCW and ECW brands.
It may have been botched, but they bought WCW for $2 million.
12.5, I thought.
It was $2 million. They got discounts and rebates. They had to mail them into Time Warner. Can you imagine how much money they have made off that video library ever since?
Can you imagine how much money they would have made if they wouldn't have let egos get involved and treated them as separate companies going forward?
It's because they didn't have the Goldbergs, the Nash, the Sting, the main players in WCW involved in that invasion angle.
Survivor Series 2001, this week's history book as we lead into Survivor Series featuring The Rock returning to the ring in a few weeks. It's time to talk a little TNA wrestling, and this past Thursday night on Impact, we found out that it will be AJ Styles challenging Bobby Roode for the TNA World Impact Wrestling Championship, and that will be happening on pay-per-view as Bobby Roode took James Storm out of the equation this past Thursday night on Impact. But David Hero, one question that AJ Styles must be asking himself is, how much can he deliver on Sunday with his injury that he suffered last Friday?
I was with AJ Styles last Friday when he injured his ankle, and he was uncertain as to how well he can go at the pay-per-view. I mean, it was really bothering him to the point where they kept him off the next 2 nights worth of house shows. So let's hope AJ Styles, the guy who likes to fly, can get that wing fixed.
AJ has shared with us that he is suffering from a high ankle strain.
It's worse than that. It's brutal.
That after Friday's house show, he expects to be able to perform on Sunday at the pay-per-view. The Pro Wrestling Report will be covering TNA's Turning Point pay-per-view with the post-show. The post-show will be live on Blog Talk Radio right after the pay-per-view on Sunday.
Will you be tweeting live?
And I will be tweeting live from Orlando, Florida at TNA Turning Point. I will be attending that pay-per-view event, so be sure to follow the Pro Wrestling Report at pwrshow.com for all the updates on that pay-per-view event. David Hero, one thing that I think also might be getting missed in this whole equation is you've got Bobby Roode and AJ Styles headlining this Sunday's pay-per-view, and you look at also matches featuring Crimson, Matt Morgan. You've got obviously James Storm, who's a former champion now. It seems as if TNA is really focusing on some of their own born talent as of late.
Well, they're going to have to, because right now the fans want to see more of the originals. I think the Hogan Sting thing served its purpose, but now they want to see what these young guys can do, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all plans out, because there's so much young talent in TNA. How are they going to get everyone a chance to get the opportunity to be on TV?
You talk about the Sting and Hogan thing doing what it needed to do. Is this really the perfect scenario? Is this really Sting and Hogan making an effort to bring the awareness to the TNA brand and then focusing on these stars? Is it really what should have happened?
Absolutely.
But it may not have worked out that perfectly, but it's a great plan.
It might have. It might not have. But Hogan and Sting were brought in to put a spotlight on the company, which they did. Now it's up to everyone else there, the young guys, the Bobby Roodes, the AJ Styles, the Gunners, the Ken Andersons, the Abyss, Crimson, Matt Morgan.
Crimson's endorsed, by the way.
Those guys now need to be that company and take it to the next level.
And will we see the next John Cena, the next Batista, the next Cody Rhodes, the next Beth Phoenix in Impact Wrestling? Maybe, because Impact Wrestling has just signed a developmental deal with Ohio Valley Wrestling, the same company that the WWE used to find those talents that I just mentioned. We'll talk about that deal and what it means to the future of TNA Impact Wrestling in our extended online version of the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. 5 minutes more, 5 more minutes, online at pwrshow.com. You do know that we keep going. When we say 5 more minutes, that means we're going to go 5 more minutes on air with the camera rolling.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought there was a little pause because you got to.
That all happened.
You got to refill your Jameson and whatnot.
I don't drink on air.
Are you serious?
I don't drink on air.
So what you say is not alcohol induced?
No. A couple of stories we're going to follow up on that we talked about on Prime Time on My 24 Milwaukee. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero here.
Hall of Famer. You know, do you realize 1 week from today, 1 week from, the Macho Man Randy Savage will be in the same Hall of Fame as myself?
No, the Macho Man Randy Savage is being inducted into the POWW Hall of Fame in Chicago at a show on November 12th.
Can you imagine
that? You're not.
I was inducted before the Macho Man.
Your trophy is a mattress spring.
Mattress spring?
Because you were inducted into a Yarder Hall of Fame. Why do you keep? All you have to do is prove it. I'm going to call. It's Jimmy Blaze, right?
Jimmy Blaze.
I'm going to call him and find out if he really had lost his mind and put you in the Hall of Fame.
I'm going to get the videotape from that event, and you can air it on the next 5 more minutes.
I can elect to air it on the next 5 more minutes.
I know people.
Will air, won't I? A couple of things we're going to expand upon that we talked about this past or on Primetime earlier in this episode, including the Michael Cole Challenge to good old JR Jim Ross. I guess it's been reinstated for Boston this upcoming Monday night when Raw gets rocked, when The Rock is actually going to be in Boston. The poor people of Boston.
Like, they want to sit through that crap.
I still say this. It will probably be entertaining. Unfortunately, some of the Ross and Cole segments have delivered the highest ratings on Raw in the last several weeks. And if the end of this is Jim Ross getting back where he belongs in that chair at ringside at that table, then it will all be worth it. That's what I'm holding out hope for.
It's going to be interesting because I really don't. Obviously, they must have something big planned to have it on the same night as The Rock is going to be there. So they obviously want viewers. They're going to fire Jim Ross. They're going to have as many viewers as possible to have Jim Ross.
To embarrass him again?
To embarrass him again, yes.
Why does he keep doing this?
Because he gets paid.
Why does he keep allowing?
Because
but I mean, when does your personal wealth become more important
than
your financial wealth?
Believe me, he has plenty of both. Jim Ross, no matter what happens to him, unless he is, involved with the Penn State deal, he is Teflon. Everything will wash away. He's going to be
He's
just
an Oklahoma
fine.
guy.
Exactly.
OU, Boomer Sooner.
Yeah, so he's fine. He's good.
You know, they called me.
Penn State?
Yeah. I guess they need a coach or something.
I'm sure they do.
So you think JR's going to get fired as a result of this? You don't think he's going to end up back at the broadcast table, which is what everybody wants. You want it, I want it, all the American people want it.
Yeah, but does Vince McMahon do that? Does he?
What's funny, ha-ha to him is the question,
Yes,
right? And unfortunately, we know the answer to that.
Exactly.
It's embarrassing Jim Ross.
But Jim Ross will be fine. You know what? He may be upset. He may be frustrated. At the end of the day, Jim Ross knows he can go work anywhere he wants.
And I would still like to hear Jim Ross working WrestleMania, but WrestleMania has already been a tremendous success without him because they sold over $6 million worth of tickets in the first 24 hours the tickets were available. They did a couple pre-sale things, the same thing they do every year. And while it's not sold out yet, it is expected to reach sellout proportions, and that will generate about $9 million in ticket revenue alone for WWE, making it their highest grossing event ever and the highest grossing wrestling event in North America ever. The question is, what is driving this? Is it The Rock, David Hero, or is it The Rock versus John Cena, or is it the brand WrestleMania being in Miami?
Obviously, it's the brand being in Miami, but let's face it. The Rock versus John Cena is a sexy match. I mean, it's two generations of fans that want to check it out, and it's Miami. Did I mention it's in Miami?
Florida.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. But you know what? There's something else that's being missed. I mean, everyone talks about the $6 million worth of tickets that have been sold. Have you seen the numbers on the new EPO T-shirts being offered by the PWR show?
I have not gotten a report from the interns unless you intercepted it again. You've been going through my office inbox?
Oh, I don't go through your closet. Are you kidding me? No, I mean, you got the new Super Friends T-shirt, you got the Welcome to Tremendous, you got the endorsed, the DWHS World Tour T-shirts, hot sellers.
You know what, I got to say, we had to use the dry erase board during Be the Booker yesterday.
Yes.
Because you don't have authority to make these decisions that you continue to make.
It was an accident.
It wasn't an accident. When you were in Michigan, you went to that hardcore pawn store, American Jewelry Alone, and pawned the iPad.
I wanted to see how it worked.
And pawned the iPad.
It was very uncomfortable.
So that you can get these shirts made.
Yes.
And of course, and I got to admit, the DHHS World Tour shirt is pretty funny. It's funny, nice. It's a good shirt.
Absolutely.
However, you weren't wrong on all those dates. You weren't right on all those dates listed on the back.
Of course I was. I may have been mistaken, but I wasn't wrong.
Did you say it less for me at American Jewelry Alone?
I got you an autograph.
Did you?
Yes.
On what? Did you pawn the iPad or did you sell the iPad?
What I did is I used the iPad and traded it for some of the software needed to make the new shirts.
TNA signed a developmental deal.
That software was like $150. That was expensive otherwise.
The iPad cost $750. That makes it a bad deal. Don't you know basic math?
I thought it was a $150 on the. Oh, sorry.
TNA has signed a developmental deal with Ohio Valley Wrestling. Ohio Valley Wrestling is pretty much world renowned because it has produced great stars in the past, David Hero. I went to an OVW show years ago, which is when.
Cena.
Exactly. I saw John Cena at an OVW show, which is actually the first time I spoke to Cody Rhodes, and the endorsement cycle began at an OVW show as well. But Beth Phoenix, John Cena.
The Miz actually started there in the beginning.
Everybody who's anybody in WWE who came through between 2002 and 2010-ish, I would say, was a brand and a product of OVW. Now, TNA has signed a developmental deal. WWE dumped OVW in 2008 and decided to go with FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling. But now TNA has that same deal. But here's what doesn't make it as easy as it may seem for them to generate such great talents. OVW has those great talents, but WWE had the Bruce Pritchards, had the Jim Rosses, had the Al Snows, had people at OVW working with these talents.
Here's the thing.
For their WWE transition, which is a lot more difficult than an OVW work.
Al Snow is still in Louisville and OVW. Danny Davis is still the guy in charge of OVW. Let's not forget, you also have Nick Dinsmore, Eugene, who's a trainer there. What's going to be interesting about the whole deal is that TNA is going to be sending some of their current TV talent
to OVW, which is no different than what WWE did.
Right, which is similar to what they do in FCW. You know, so I'm willing to bet that you're going to see most of the X division there, with the exception of maybe Austin Aries and Brian Kendrick. You're going to see Jesse Sorensen. You're going to see Mexican America. You're going to see some of the girls there. It is the best opportunity for TNA to get in-ring work done with these young talents, where they can go on the road all over the Ohio Valley area on different house shows and events and whatnot, and work on TV, because they will still be taping TV the same way they did, years ago with the WWE. But great move for TNA. I mean, for as often as they take a few steps back, this one going forward, I think, is a great call.
Does it change the clock?
It may tick it back a few minutes, but let's just see if they are truly committed to TNA.
All right. Well, also, what are these interns doing?
I have no idea. They obviously don't see the signs.
Here's a question. It's a loaded question, so ready yourself.
I'm ready. Are you
Is
ready?
John Cena the problem with professional wrestling? What I mean by that is this. There is no doubt the business is nowhere
John
near
Cena
what it has been in the past.
the problem?
John Cena is arguably, however you can't argue it much, the biggest star in professional wrestling right now.
Agreed.
When you look back in the annals of time in professional wrestling, the biggest stars in professional wrestling falls under names such as The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan,
NWO.
Ric Flair. These people carried companies and carried the business overall to success. John Cena is nowhere near the level of any of those talents that I just mentioned.
I don't know about that.
Who does he compare to?
Well, you could. The Rock?
You can compare John Cena to The Rock.
As far as success?
Success
Absolutely.
in professional wrestling?
Absolutely.
Disagree.
Really?
Disagree.
Why? Because of who he has not defeated, or what?
I'm not talking about his wrestling ability or the way he's been presented. I'm talking about his
most
characterization
people,
and
Joe Walmart knows who John Cena is.
They do.
Yeah,
But everybody
John
knows
Cena,
who The Rock is. Everybody
He's
knew
been
who
around
The Rock
longer.
was.
Well, it's a different time.
It is a different
time. But if you consider that wrestling is not nearly as popular as it was when The Rock and Steve Austin were on top.
But arguably it was as popular as it was because The Rock and Steve Austin were on top.
Right, but what I'm saying, completely different dynamic. You had two big wrestling shows on Monday night. Okay? You had tons of money being thrown around on the Monday Night Wars. You had Hulk Hogan turning heel. You had NWO Invasion. Something new, edgy, and different. Right now, you just got John Cena on the Raw brand. But if you go and you ask people that are wrestling fans that like wrestling, I just couldn't see anything, is that if you ask them who they like, they're going to say, they'll recognize the name John Cena. They're not.
But that's the question. Is John Cena the problem with professional wrestling? Because while they may recognize the name John Cena, the name John Cena does not mean anywhere near what the name The Rock, the name Stone Cold, the name Hulk Hogan meant in their heydays in wrestling.
But here's why. Because John Cena's WWE is a different brand than The Rock's.
True.
Okay? It was more edgy.
True.
Okay? It was more of the 19 to 35-year-olds. Now it's the 12 to 18-year-olds. I mean, John Cena has not been asked to host Saturday Night Live. Okay?
Nor will he.
Well, he probably won't. How often was John Cena on Jay Leno?
I think he's been on a couple times.
I'm just saying back then they were bigger stars.
But why can't they be as big stars now?
Because the way WWE and creative, and now how they become corporate, they've changed the rules. John Cena has to be the white bread good guy. Okay? He can't be the edgy, cool guy. You know what I mean?
But that's contradictory to what you said a moment ago, because The Rock was edgy. So why can't Cena be edgy and
Because
maybe
it's
achieve a similar level of success?
In wrestling.
But
John Cena
whatever he
be
does
Stone
drives
Cold
that era
and give the two-finger salute.
He cannot.
No, that got Austin over? There's so many anti-establishment people that loved Austin because they could relate to Austin.
Correct.
You kind of relate to Cena wearing your silly John Cena cap around town. But other than that, most grown men do not want to dress like John Cena. Grown men back when The Rock was hot, they wanted to wear the silky smooth shirts. You know, they wanted to shave their head like Stone Cold, grow the goatee, and have a few Steve Weisers. Nobody over 16 desires to be John Cena.
What prompts the question that I will continue to ask, which is
And
if
I
John
already
Cena
answered it.
He's
not the problem. The problem is the creative forces behind him.
The question that's out there is John Cena the problem with professional wrestling? The reason that I ask that, what prompted that question is, think back to when we first had the opportunities leading up to this year's WrestleMania, The Rock to go toe-to-toe with John Cena. You made the point several times that it proved that nobody will ever be The Rock, which is not a knock on John Cena, but it also proved that John Cena is nowhere near the level of The Rock.
And he's not. He's not the level. But if you're going to compare, if you can compare it on different levels, they're equal.
Could WWE, if they took their focus and put it on a CM Punk, who is edgy, whom a lot of people can relate to, who is anti-establishment?
Who wants to be CM Punk?
I think a lot of people do.
I don't think so.
I think a lot of people do.
I disagree.
Because if they were to do that and take him and focus on him and move forward in that direction and go more edgy and go back, not to the Attitude Era, but go back to being cutting edge in what they do, could they achieve greater success? It's speculative.
It's hard to say. I mean, you know, CM Punk's a great talent, great on the mic. He's a great in-ring performer. But I just can't see many guys in their 20s wanting to be him.
Really? Well, you're in your 50s, so.
Doesn't make a difference. I mean, they may want his black book, you know, of all the divas he's gone out with, but other than that, I mean, you have The Rock here and CM Punk there. Who do you want to be? You want to be the movie star, good looks guy with the jacked body, or you want to be the guy in the T-shirt and the slick back hair and the beard with the tattoos all over himself? Answer the question.
As much as the comparison between Cena and Rock is not fair, that comparison is not fair.
I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying, who would you rather be?
John Cena's not working. As a catalyst for the entire business to be built behind, John Cena's not working. True or false?
Oh, he is working.
So you think that the lack of success that the wrestling business overall is seeing...
You can't blame it on John Cena. Like I said,
can you blame it on Hulk Hogan? Can you blame it on The Rock? Can you blame it on Stone Cold?
You got to blame it on creativity.
But you need a nucleus.
And you can also put some of the blame on the UFC. They have stolen a huge audience from wrestling.
I got invited to the Lesnar fight on December 30th out in Vegas.
You should go.
Really?
Absolutely.
You think maybe I can confront him? Because I will have destroyed Chris Masters by that point, so I can move on to Brock Lesnar.
Let me know how that works for you.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
Catch him at the right time. Cash in my opportunity.
Absolutely.
It is a question that does not knock John Cena. It is a question that simply is to spur discussion. Is John Cena the problem with wrestling? Half of you will say yes, half of you will say no. But I will leave you with this. John Cena is no Rock. John Cena is no Steve Austin. John Cena is no Hulk Hogan. John Cena is more of an Ultimate Warrior. John Cena is more of a Macho Man Randy Savage.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding you. He definitely is. He's second. He is not.
Macho Man is not second.
Macho Man was never, for an extended period of time,
Macho Man is one of the top 5 guys in the history of wrestling.
He is, yes.
Yes.
But he was in the shadows of Hulk Hogan.
Well, yeah, just like Randy Orton's in the shadows of John Cena. Much like The Rock and Austin were in the shadows of each other the whole time, too.
The Rock surpassed Austin.
No, he did not.
He did.
Austin was a far more successful in-ring performer.
I'm not talking about in-ring performance. I'm talking superstar measurements.
Sure. There's always somebody stuck in the shadow.
And I'll make that point clear about the Macho Man as you tried to Republican me into saying something I didn't. I'm saying the Macho Man was a tremendous in-ring performer, if not one of the best ever, but his star power never surpassed that
When
of Hulk Hogan.
Hogan went away, they gave the ball to Macho
They
Man.
did,
Yes.
and he carried it very successfully.
He did.
But not for an extended period of time. I'm not sure if he could have sustained the business. Hulk Hogan sustained the wrestling business for a period of years. True or false?
Absolutely.
The Rock sustained the wrestling business for
For
a
the
period of
7 years he was in, yes.
Stone Cold Steve Austin sustained the wrestling business for a number of years. That's the point I'm trying to make. John Cena is not sustaining a successful wrestling business. You're right. UFC entertainment options that are out there that weren't there before are definitely contributing to that. But people are saying, the question needs to be asked, what's wrong with wrestling? Why is it not at that spot? Why can't they refine themselves enough to be back in that top spot? And the question that needs to be asked is if John Cena is that reason. I'm not saying he is or isn't.
I told you he's not.
Let us know what you think. This discussion, of course, has, I'm sure, exploded down there.
Down where?
You told me about that down there where people
there's
write.
a little gimmick thing down there.
I don't know why I can never see it. And who's this David Del Hero that always posts on there? Is that somebody using your
He
screen
is
name?
one wise ass. Gimmick infringement.
And on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. I want to remind you, we're going to be on Blog Talk Radio tomorrow night. I'll be live from Orlando, Florida at TNA Turning Point.
I won't be. I couldn't go on that trip. Thanks, pal.
That's because look at your history. Look at what you do. You went and pawned the iPad, so we had to go back into the technological dark ages
it
on
was
Be the
to
Booker
make
yesterday.
more money.
This has been the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time Television. We'll see you Sunday for the post show for TNA Turning Point, and then in 2 weeks we return to 540 ESPN on Monday night from Karma Bar and Grill here in southeastern Wisconsin. For that one, this is Dameon Nelson saying thank you for tuning in to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time.